And there are some that didn't, that voted for Donald Trump for certain policy issues. There's some, and a lot of what I think is they voted for him because he wasn't an ideologue. They didn't think he was anyway. They didn't think he was a politician. They thought he would be something different. And maybe he's shown them that, maybe he hasn't. I guess what I'm saying is you have been there. You have been in the legislature. And Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of was the same thing. I mean, they voted for him. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't an ideologue. They thought they would get something different. I think that percentage I said of 13% of 18 to 24-year-olds going and more people flooding into the independent party or a non-party preference vote, they are sick of the left to right banter. Gavin Newsom has railed against Donald Trump, and you have railed against the Democrats in the state majority. Isn't that a sign of these people running to an independent party that they are a little bit sick of the right versus left and the fight over party versus people? And
I would actually contend absolutely not. What this really says is it says that the leadership of the party is not speaking to these people. Look, the Republican values that we talk about are all common sense. Every single one of my 5 points in my 5-point plan are issues that 60 to 80% of Californians agree with, regardless of political party. The problem is we've not had an effective communicator who's willing to speak directly to the people of California and tell them the entire truth, not just about what the problems are, but what the direct solutions will be. This is what's been lacking. When people say, oh my gosh, I hate the political gridlock, I hate the back and forth of politics. Actually, this is a very good thing because having a two-party system is very healthy. It gives us balance. This is exactly what we have not had in the state of California for decades now. Real balance where people actually get the benefit of hearing both sides of the story. This is what we need again in California is we need to have a governor. And by the way, I gave a eulogy today for George Deukmejian, who was a former governor of California. When he was elected, he was the only Republican statewide elected official. And after him, of course, we got many more Republicans. But this is what it takes. It takes someone to essentially kick that door down and say, look, the time for the liberal elites out of San Francisco running our state is over. Californians don't want our state looking like the streets of San Francisco with 22,000 intravenous drug users and maps of human waste and hypodermic needles where kids got to walk to school on their sidewalks. They don't want us to look like the streets of Los Angeles, where you have 58,000 people living homeless every single day. I mean, it looks like a third world country down there. People want a state that they can be proud of. They want a state that is able to clean itself up, to clean up our streets, to put people to work, to make people safe again. And this is exactly what we will bring to California. And I'll tell you right now, this is what will get people ultimately to register as Republican. And you don't got to take my word for it. Let's look at history as an example. Texas apparently used to only have about 3 Republicans elected in the entire state. Now it's one of the reddest states in the entire country. And what it took is it took some very strong individuals to convey the message that what we believe in as Republicans is common sense. We believe in giving people the most freedom possible and the ability to decide what is right for them, not an overarching, huge government and vast unelected bureaucracy that tells us how to live every aspect of our life and taxes us to death in order to do it. I'll tell you, this message is not only clear and compelling, it's a message that will attract. And I believe that many people are starting to get attracted to the message also that's coming out of the White House. And we can see this in the approval numbers. They're all ticking up. I'll tell you that soon enough, I believe this translates into registration numbers as well. And it will turn into that as well in California, because this is what turns the tide. This race in 2018 is the most important race we have over the next decade. When California elects a Republican governor, a real conservative, Travis Allen, to be your next governor of the state of California, we change not just California, but the entire nation for a generation. When the path to the White House has to come through California, we keep the White House for a generation. And I'll tell you right now, that's a lot of good in the world.
I hear what you're saying, and, we don't usually put ourselves in the position here of debating point for point. So, we'll let your answer stand. But I as an independent voter and as somebody that has lived in California since the 1976, I do have a little bit of a hard time thinking that the only reason that people have not already flocked to the Republican Party and driven up the registration numbers is because no one has come along with this kind of answer. I mean, I hear what you're saying. You're very forceful. You're very direct. You're very clear on kind of what you're going for, which is great for a politician. But I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, it seems as though if there was a huge hunger for that here in California, we would have seen more of an indication of that. And it's already, between the registration numbers, between the voting records and all that kind of stuff, it just strikes me as we would have seen more of an indication so far if there was that latent hunger here.
So I'll tell you something. A lot of times it takes things getting really bad before the right person comes along. Think of this very simply. If we had somebody like Ronald Reagan for the last couple of decades in California, that California would look vastly different, not just the state, but also the registration of California. We have not had that. We have lacked real leadership, strong leadership in the Republican Party now for decades. And I'm talking about the elected officials that have the ability to convey their voice across the state in a friendly, positive manner, but with real concrete solutions to these states' dire problems. And you take a look at where our state is. And this is the other reason why a lot of time it's timing. And right now, the landscape is exactly right for this. Because you take a look across the state of California, where 1 in 5 Californians lives below the poverty line. We have the highest poverty rate in the entire nation. We have the highest homelessness in the entire nation. We have rising violent crime. And now we have these open borders that the California Democrats are supporting and the illegal sanctuary state. And I'll tell you right now, Californians have had enough. It has gotten so bad that they see what it's like. I mean, I was in San Francisco just the other day for an interview. We parked on the street. I opened up my door. And as I opened up my door to the sidewalk smelled. I mean, this is what California is turning into underneath Democrat leadership. And everybody knows it. San Francisco has not had a Republican mayor in 50 years. California does not want a repeat of 8 more years of Jerry Brown. And they certainly don't want 8 years of Gavin Newsom, who, if you can believe it, is far to the left of Jerry Brown. And this is actually what we're up against. I mean, think about this. Gavin Newsom, the leading Democrat right now, wants single-payer health care in the state of California. This would mean that you'd have to go to the DMV to get medical care. You would absolutely lose your doctor. And think about it. If government-run health care was such a great idea.
They're not going to send you to the DMV to get it. I hear what you're saying, and that's a great line, but they're not going to turn the DMVs into a bunch of health care.
It might be quicker. I waited 4 hours at the doctor the other night.
This is it. I mean, think about this, guys. Think about this. This is exactly what they said in England, right? They said, it could never happen here. But then we just heard the story of Alfie Evans, who's this poor kid who needs medical care, and the government is now telling him he can't get it.
No, I totally hear you. I don't think they're taking Alfie Evans to the London branch of the
I was
DMV.
injured overseas, and I was impressed. I got out of there, broken foot, no bill.